All right, so let's talk about stress, health, and wellness. So, we are going to start with how we perceive and experience stress. So, when you look at stress, there's two components. So, there is, of course, the situation itself, and then there is your appraisal. So, your appraisal can also be described as your how you look at or how you evaluate a situation. So you have primary appraisal, which is how you look at it based upon your experiences in the past. So is this something you're familiar with? Is this something that you've dealt with before? And then secondary appraisal asks, do you have the skills, the time, the resources necessary to handle that situation? Now, your level of appraisal varies widely from person to person, which is why two people can experience the same event and have different thoughts and feelings about it. But what we know is that on average, certain things tend to be more stressful for more people. So, negative situations which are associated with negative emotions. So, for example, if you are planning a funeral or a wedding, even though they are strikingly similar, a funeral tends to be much more stressful than a wedding. Things that are unpredictable. Most of us find that unsettling and difficult to deal with, and we feel more stressed about it. So, for example, if you were just fired from your job instead of let go or given time to find another job, most people would rate that as more stressful. Ambiguous. So you're unclear about what you're supposed to do while you're at work, or what you and that person that you've been talking to, are y'all in a situation? That is usually associated with greater stress. When you try to do two things simultaneously, so folks who are trying to go to school full time and also go to work full time and have to do them both together often usually experience more stress. So, how do adolescents deal with stress, and what are some things associated with higher stress in adolescents? So, the first thing to know about adolescents is that they need a lot of sleep. And without that sleep, they tend to have difficulty in stress, but also mood regulation in general. They have a higher propensity to be depressed or a higher likelihood to experience depression. Doesn't mean they will, it's just higher likelihood. That's all that means, right? And it also can affect their grades. So, when you're an adolescent, your body naturally craves to go to bed later. So most adolescents, even before TVs and phones and all of that magical thing, all those magical things, most adolescents craved going to bed later. So they don't really get tired until about 11 o'clock. And if you're not getting tired till about 11 o'clock, you're not going to want to wake up super early in the morning. And most adolescents need more sleep than adults. So they need about 9 hours. Some need a little bit more, some need a little bit less, but generally they need about 9. And if they want to go to bed at 11 p.m., they're not going to want to wake up until about mid morning. And that's normal. That's what their body craves. And those adolescents who do not get enough sleep tend to experience negative outcomes, like I talked about earlier. So, what are some other things that are associated with stress? So, we're going to talk about a concept called psychoneuroimmunology. And basically, what this means is that your brain, your immune system, and your particular thoughts all affect your health and well being. So, when you watch the stress video, it will continue to hammer this point home. But the idea is that when we experience stress, it does not just affect us on a psychological level, or we don't just feel uncomfortable. We actually have physical symptoms which have consequences. So, we know that higher levels of stress are associated with heightened level of certain hormones, which you're going to see in the video, high levels, blood pressure, respiration, sweating, just those physiological symptoms. And then that can sometimes be associated with harmful behaviors like not getting enough sleep, which is what we talked about earlier, or just not eating foods that you would normally want to eat. And then that can have further indirect effects on health. So you might not even engage in healthful behaviors like walking or exercising. So I want you to think about psychoneuroimmunology, or how our brain and immune system work together when you watch the video about stress. I want you to pay particular attention when you see the macaque monkeys and the mothers with children with disabilities. I want you to look at those two groups and look at the physical consequence that stress is having in their lives and the ways that they cope with that. All right. See you in the next one.